The Mazda RX-Vision GT3 Concept is the other car in the Group 3 class of Gran Turismo 7 which exists in two versions which are completely identical. There are the normal version and the stealth version. For this video I will test the normal version and we will find out how the car performs. The RX-Vision was presented at the Tokyo Motor Show in October 2015 and represents Mazda's vision of a future sports car. It is one of the poster cars of Gran Turismo 7 and has been part of the car roster since release. It uses the SkyActiv ART technology, which guarantees reliability and low fuel consumption by reducing the weight of the parts. The car has a power output of 525 PS, only weighs 1290 kilograms and has a 6-speed manual gearbox. The design philosophy of Mazda, called Kodo, is apparent in the car design. The RX name indicates the Wankel engine. This engine is inspired by the 4-rotor naturally aspirated R26B engine used in the Le Mans winning Mazda 787B. The Mazda RX-Vision GT3 Concept was announced at the 2019 FIA Gran Turismo Championship World Finals and was added to Gran Turismo Sport in May 2020. Power has increased to 570 PS and the weight has been further reduced to 1250 kilograms. The 6-speed gearbox has been kept, although it's now sequential. Mazda is one of the official partners of the Gran Turismo World Series and is therefore a confirmed championship competitor. In the 2026 manufacturers ranking, recorded on 27th of June 2026, Mazda ranked in P13 overall with a total of 635.5 points over all three classes. In the highest class, GT1, it was only placed in P19 with 146 points. Mazda is more popular in the GT2 class, placing in P13 with 223.5 points. Lastly, in the GT3 class, it is placed in P9 with 266 points. Mazda also competes with two cars, with the other being the Atenza Group 3, although the RX-Vision is far more popular and is also used in the Gran Turismo World Series. Since Mazda is a sponsor of the World Series, is the RX-Vision actually a good car, or is it another also-ran? Well, there's only one way to find out. We have to drive it. The RX-Vision has the standard ride height of 60 mm at the front and 70 mm at the back, and frequencies of 3.8 Hz at the front and 3.4 Hz at the back. The downforce levels of 400 at the front and 600 at the rear mean that the car is in the medium downforce range. For an FR car, the weight distribution of 48 to 52 is quite rearward and will behave more like an MR car. Such a special layout is usually called FMR, front mid-engine rear-wheel drive. If we look at the engine and torque curves, the engine curve moves up linearly until around 7000 rpm. It then stays relatively close to peak power until 9200 rpm before dropping. The torque curve peaks around 6500 to 7000 rpm. This means that the car should have a relative wide power band and has good potential for fuel saving without much of a time loss. The gearbox ratio shows an ideal shifting point at 9200 rpm. With 6 gears, the first gear reaches up to 111 kph. The first gear could prove to be too long, but traction will be good thanks to the weight balance. With each gear change, the next gear should land between 7000 to 7500 rpm, which means max power most of the time. Now that we know how the car works, I will test the acceleration capabilities. In the first test, I will drive on Tokyo Expressway east clockwise in a custom race with a Group 4 opponent behind me, with a flying start. There's not much to say for the first test. We set an initial time of 24.116. The important settings are BOP on, all setup options except brake bias set off, tire wear times 1, fuel depletion times 1, same conditions set on, and we will use medium racing tires and drive with bumper cam. As expected, there is not too much time improvement. We end up with a 24.041. From the point the game releases me, I will stay on the lane I started and drive until the first sector ends, and note down the time. At 75% ref bar, we break the 24 seconds barrier. This is a 23.977. I will repeat these tests several times and with different shifting points. Once at 25% of the ref bar, 50%, 75%, 90%, 100%, and as a last test, ref it out as much as possible. Another improvement, this time it's a 23.949. If there is a wide difference between 100% ref bar and maximum refs, I will do a further test at half point. For this car, this was not necessary. Another slight improvement. We end up with a 23.937. All times will be noted down and you will see what effects shifting at the right point has for the car. In the end, only the fastest time out of the set times will count. Now we're driving with full revs. The RX-Vision proves to be very flexible considering shifting, less than 0.2 between the slowest and to the fastest time. We settle with a 23.967. The RX-Vision grabs the top spot, despite having less power than the other cars. The wide power band is helping a lot. It is another high rever. In the second test, I will accelerate from a standstill, and at the ideal shifting point which we saw in the previous test. If you will drive a race or championship that has standing starts, this will be important because some cars have long first gears, which means that they will take longer to accelerate and you might be losing positions at the start. As expected, the RX-Vision has good traction off the line. The first gear will need to be shorter to get the maximum out of the car. We end up this test with a 28.470. The RX-Vision is another slow starter. At least you can just stamp the pedal and you won't get in trouble. Next, we will do 2 top speed tests. For the first test, I will open a private online lobby and select Special Stage Route X. The important settings are BOP on, all setup options except brake bias set off, tire wear times 1, fuel depletion times 1, same conditions set on, and we will use medium racing tires and drive with bonnet cam. The straight is long enough for the car to reach its natural top speed after 10 km. However, the car should stay stable within the last 600 meters and not lose speed. If it does, I'll drive to the other side of the oval and drive a few more kilometers until the speed sets. Due to the very sleek car design, the RX-Vision has a low drag coefficient and therefore has very good top speed despite having less power than the other cars. We end up at 284 kph. The reign of the M6 only lasts one episode, as the RX-Vision claims the top spot now. For the second test, we'll change the track to the Daytona Tri-Oval and drive 2 laps. The settings stay the same except for the track. The first lap does not count as it is meant to get up to speed. The second lap will count and the lap time will be recorded. This test is done to check how much speed the cars lose during cornering, which has to do with the cornering itself, the aerodynamics and the engine curves of the cars. To the surprise of absolutely nobody, the RX-Vision should be claiming the top spot as the top speed is higher than the other cars tested so far. We end the lap in the oval with a 51.693. The only slightly surprising fact about the P1 spot is that there is a gap of almost 6/10 to the next best car. The next 3 tests will be quite straightforward. I will test the cars on track and record the lap times. The important settings are BOP on, all setup options except brake bias set off, tire wear ×1, fuel depletion ×1, same conditions set on, weak shortcut penalties, and we will use medium racing tires and drive with cockpit cam. For each test I will drive 1 out lap and 10 timed laps, and I will do this twice. This means that each car gets 20 timed laps. Additionally, the total of best sector times and the optimal lap time will be counted instead of the fastest driven lap, as this provides a far fairer statement. Genuinely, a fastest lap can have errors in it. This will be eliminated through this method. The low speed BOP test will take place in Brands Hatch. This track was chosen due to most low-speed BOP tracks having primarily slow-speed corners, whereas you see many mid-speed corners here as well. Like the Mitsubishi, the RX-Vision is heavier with the low-power BOP than with the other trims. The car feels nice, especially in slow corners. It has good handling and traction. However, the rear can get quite loose if you're not careful. In the end, we set an optimal time of 1:24.359. This puts the RX-Vision in P3. It's less than 2/10 behind the M6 and still close. For the medium speed BOP test, I have chosen Interlagos as the track to go to. Interlagos, at least in Formula 1, is a circuit where most cars and drivers are extremely close together in lap times. While the first section tests mid and high speed cornering, the second section tests mechanical grip, whereas the last section tests acceleration and top speed. With the medium speed BOP, the weight has decreased by 11 kilograms. The car feels good around here, especially in slow corners. Be careful with the acceleration though, the car can spin out randomly. we set an optimal lap time of 1:32.846. The RX-Vision is the fastest car around here for now, with a gap of almost 15 hundredths of a second to the M6.
For the high-speed VOP test, I have chosen the Autodromo Nazionale Monza as our test circuit. While the first section tests acceleration and mechanical grip, medium and high-speed cornering is tested in the second and third section. Another reason why this circuit was chosen is to test how good the cars are over curbs, as Monza has quite some aggressive curbs to master, which some cars can react allergic to.
The low-speed traction zones may be one reason the car loses time. But I think from the second sector onwards with the faster corners, the most time is lost. Acceleration and top speed should be better than with the other cars, and the low-speed corners are not the problem, so it should be the fast corners. Anyway, we set an optimal lap time of 1:49.444. The RX-Vision ends up in P3. With the Mitsubishi still on top, I'm honestly surprised that neither the M6 nor the RX-Vision have beaten it.
The next test will bring us to Dragon Trail Seaside for the endurance test. This test determines how the car fares with fuel depletion and tire wear. The important settings are VOP on, all setup options except brake bias set off, tire wear times 5, fuel depletion times 3, same conditions set on, and we will use soft racing tires and drive with cockpit cam. I will drive race pace here, which means that I will drive a bit safer than in the previous sessions, drive round the lines, and look if I can save fuel if the car allows it. This circuit was chosen because it is a medium speed BOP circuit, because it has all types of corners, and it is a fair circuit considering tire wear where neither front heavy FR cars nor rear heavy MR or RR cars are at a disadvantage.
I will skip the major part of that stint and I'll see you later on when the tires are at its end. I have driven 9 laps now and the left front tire is almost dead. The weight distribution and the light weight of the RX-Vision have brought it far. The understeer is noticeable, but the rear tires are also near finished. As the last line of the front left tire is gone now, I will stop. That was not too elegant. Anyway, let's record the distance and fuel usage. I've driven 9.3 laps. Somehow this number appears familiar to me. The RX-Vision shares P1 with the Suzuki, both with 9.3 laps. You can also see that the car has 42 liters left in the tank. We started with 100 liters, this means we used 58 liters. Divided by the 9.3 laps driven, this results in 6.24 liters per lap. I was pushing here with the fastest shifting point. You could shift at 75% rev bar with minimal time loss and save lots of fuel if needed.
The setup tests are useful for two reasons. Firstly, it shows how the car is set up and how a few clicks can make the car behave completely differently. Secondly, it shows what potential can be unlocked if you have races and championships where more setup changes are allowed. I will do two setup tests. The first test will be a repeat of the Special Stage Route X top speed test with all setup options allowed. There, the car will be set to minimum downforce and the top speed will be recorded. Due to the engine power curves at different stock downforce levels, the results can differ widely.
The RX-Vision gains 8 kph through the reduced downforce. This is the highest gain of speed so far. Incredible what a low drag coefficient and a wide power band can do.
The second test will be a repeat of the medium BOP test in Interlagos with all setup options allowed. All cars will be set to medium downforce levels on the front and rear, and I will do some suspension and LSD changes from my preference. In some cases, drivability will improve, and in others it will get worse. How much faster or slower the cars can get is up to the standard setting and can differ widely for each car.
The downforce levels stay the same, with the other settings being changed to my liking. I honestly feel like I made the car drive worse, especially in the low speed corners. It has potential, don't get me wrong, but it is more difficult to drive. Despite my ramblings, there is still an improvement. We end up with a 132.690. So, with the normalized setup, we gain 0.156 seconds, the lowest gain so far. Considering the lap time, the RX-Vision stays on top, with the Suzuki climbing up to P2. The gaps are extremely close.
This test consists of three steps. First, another top speed test on Special Stage Route X will be done. This time the BOP is set to off, and the cars are set up manually to have 5 to 7% more power, depending on the maximum power output of the cars. The setup will be the same as it is when the BOP is on, so stock. Like in the setup tests, this is to see how much each car improves in top speed.
The RX-Vision gained 6% more power in this test. As with the downforce test, the top speed test shows an increase of 8 kph on the straight. With that, the RX-Vision goes up to 292 kph and 1.333 kph faster per percent power advantage.
Additionally, acceleration tests will be done, both with flying and standing starts, and with an Unimog as an opponent. The shifting points will be the optimal shifting points as determined in the first acceleration test.
Not much to say here, we press the accelerator, car goes brap brap brap. We end up the acceleration test with a 23.293. The RX-Vision is 0.644 seconds faster. With each percent power increase, we gain 0.107 seconds. For the standing start, you can still start by pressing the accelerator all through. The first gear is now a much more ideal length, so that there is a good time gain. Now it does not feel like there is a power hole anymore. I expect a very high time gain. The RX-Vision ends up with a time of 27.553. The RX-Vision gains 0.930 seconds, improving by 0.155 seconds with each percent power increase.
The third test will be a repeat of the high-speed BOP test in Monza, again with BOP set to off and the increased power output. Another 20 hot laps will be driven and the optimal time will be noted. Then the lap time will be compared to the high-speed BOP lap time and the value for each percent power increase will be noted down. With this test, you can see how much the car improves by giving 1% more power.
I do wonder now if we will have another car with as much of a time gain like the M6 before. This one surprised me a lot. Will this become a new standard or was this a one-off? Well, we will see. The acceleration zones should be less of a problem for the RX-Vision now, as there is now enough power in first gear. We end up with a lap time of 1:47.971. The time improvement is 1.473 seconds and a 0.246 seconds time improvement per percent more power.
The last test will be another repeat of the high-speed BOP test in Monza, with the same settings as before with the increased power test. This time the initial BOP power output from the BOP will be set again. However, at least for the Group 3 tests, the weight will be increased by 35 kilograms for each car. This is because the highest ballast weight due to the high-speed BOP is 165 kilograms. Another 20 hot laps will be driven and the optimal time will be noted down. Then the lap time will be compared to the high-speed BOP lap time and the value for weight increase will be noted down. Basically, the difference in lap times will be divided by 7 to have a 5 kilogram time loss. With this testing method, you can see how much slower the car gets by adding 5 kilograms of weight.
Now that the Mazda gained as much time with the power increase as the M6 did, I'm curious to see if we now will also lose just as much time with the higher weight. The car does not feel too different, just slower. In the end, we achieve an optimal time of 1:49.885, which is 0.441 seconds slower than with the BOP. With every 5 kg weight increase, the time loss is around 0.063 seconds. The Mazda RX-Vision turns out to be a good car with its strengths being low speed corners, acceleration, top speed, and running long on a tire set. Fast corners could turn out to be a little problematic, but this doesn't make the car any weaker. If you can figure out how to save fuel without losing speed, it is a very capable car for most circuits. However, the sudden loss of traction in corners can sometimes catch the car out. I hope you now learned a bit more about the RX Vision and you now know how to use it to your advantage. The next car will be a car that is still kicking ass after 10 years of competition. I hope you find this video series interesting so far, and I'd love to hear from you in the next video.